It's not how much money you make that's as important as how much money you keep. I grew up extremely poor. I left home when I was 15, and that's when I become an entrepreneur. I like to help the poor make it to the middle class. Escape the middle class and become part of the rich. Just start creating content. As you start getting some leverage, then go out and find an agency. They're gonna blow it up.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs, business owners who are crushing it in their business, and especially people who are doing at least $1 million a year. Now, the reason we do this, just as a reminder, is because we want you to know that the advice they're giving here, the stories they're sharing, the techniques are real, and they're not speaking from theory, they're speaking from experience. Now, I've got with me a guest today. His name is Rondi Lambeth. You may have already heard of him because he has, I think, Rondi, remind me, is it close to 1 million followers across social media platforms online?
I think so. I think it's maybe a little over 1 million now. But
Yeah, I just did a quick scan across Instagram, Facebook. I don't know how to see the stats on podcasts, and I checked out YouTube too. And you have a very decent following. Now, I think that what you have achieved is what 99% of entrepreneurs who are trying to use content creation on social media, free content, to leverage their business, I think you've achieved what a lot of people are looking for, and a lot of people look up to you. So I'm so grateful that you're on the show to help share a little bit of your journey and what's working. Welcome to the show.
hey, thank you so much for having me. Let's see if I can provide you and your audience some valuable information, and maybe we can even save them a decade of doing things wrong like I did. And so many people do it wrong.
Perfect. Right before I hopped on this call, I was just like, I need to make sure I get his tagline right. And, it says America's credit expert, and it's right on the board behind you. So I was like,
Yeah.
dang it. I'm not going to sound clever at all. I'm just reading the sign behind his head, but he is known as America's credit expert, and for good reason too. Now, everywhere we went, like we were just in Florida, and I think there was like 3 times already that we've kind of met and hung out together.
Mhm.
But each time we're in conversations, whether it's like, walking from one location to another, or like at the fire pit at night, or over a meal, sitting next to each other at a conference, whether it's me or somebody around you, everybody is asking you techniques around, things like saving money, making money, reducing tax things and things like that. So I believe that because you can speak so authoritatively in those topics and have figured out a lot of things that, most people keep, close to their chest, that you're really filling a need in the market. When I say market, I mean like the social media landscape that a lot of people just don't know, are completely ignorant about, or are giving false information on. And that's what really impressed me about you. You really, really know your stuff. And I was super impressed, blown away, which is when I said, I've got to have you on the podcast. So thank you for joining.
I feel a little flattered, a little there. If I wasn't so tan.
Every time you start talking, like you start just casually saying, "Oh yeah," da, da, da," and then that resulted in $10,000 that I got, back in taxes. I'm just like, that's a good, 1 minute tip that could earn $10,000 or save $10,000. So why don't you start by giving us, in a nutshell, like what kind of people do you help, and what kind of results do you help them get typically?
So the people that I help are primarily who I want to help are the working poor, also known as the lower middle class of America, and true middle class. And then it's probably 90% of my clients are middle class. So they make a household income of $100,000 or less. And then another 10% would be entrepreneurs that are trying to become millionaires, and sometimes millionaires as well. And the reason I like working with the middle class is I grew up, Ken, extremely poor. And people have a hard time believing this because I grew up in America. I grew up about an hour west of where I live now in Boise, Idaho. I grew up in a shack. It was someone's storage shed that was put on a 80-acre farm of sagebrush that just had nothing but ticks. and snakes, and just there was nothing there. And I grew up until I was 15 years old. I never had electricity in my house. I was the oldest of 13 kids. We didn't have running water.
And that's in this
It's in
this is not like,
Idaho.
1900s. I mean, 1800s. This is like
is
19.
I am a little older than
Yeah, but like
most
this is
people.
within like memory of people
I was
listening.
born in 71. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it wasn't until no electricity until 1986. No running water, no income. We got our food out of a dumpster. I'm just trying to say that I grew up really poor.
Now I don't feel like I could tell people I grew up poor when I compare it to what you just described.
Well, there's a lot of people that grew up a lot poorer than I did, just not necessarily in America. Um, so I like to help the middle class because when I was 15 years old, we used to get beat up. There was one of us siblings getting beaten every day. I had a stepfather that was mentally ill, actually murdered one person that he got caught. He's murdered a couple other people, just never got caught. And he actually went to prison. And he spent most of his time in a mental hospital, and then they released him. So at 15 years old, I left. I got over it. I was like, you know what? I can go out on my own. I could probably eat better, sleep better. I won't get beat up as much, and I won't have to put up with all the abuse. So I left home when I was 15, and that's when I become an entrepreneur because what are you going to do at 15? You got to hustle, right? And so I went to work for a very, very wealthy man who taught me about money, credit, and taxes. And one of the things he used to always teach me is it's not how much money you make that's important. It's how much money you keep. And it's your responsibility and only your responsibility to manage your money, make sure you pay no income taxes, and then invest your money. You can't depend on someone else to do that. Forbes did a study recently and found that 96% of Americans pay more than they're legally required to in taxes. 96%. Most people think the money game, the tax game, and the credit game are very complicated. It's not complicated at all. It's very simple if you understand the basics of it. And so what I like to do is help the middle class escape the middle class and become part of the rich. And I like to help the rich pay less income taxes so they can pay their middle class employees more money and they can teach their employees how to do more. And then I like to help the poor make it to the middle class. And we do that through credit education, financial education, and tax planning, tax strategies for the middle class. Because the rich, even though they pay the majority of the income tax in America, despite what the politicians say that the rich don't pay it, they actually do. The rich pay the majority of the income tax. They just pay a smaller percentage of their income. And it's because the rich and wealthy have a very small income. The goal when you become wealthy is to not have income. Because if you have income, you got to pay taxes on it. Now, I'm not saying not to have money. I'm saying not to have income. And there's a difference between income and assets that pay you in tax-free money. So I like to show the middle class what the rich is doing, the majority of the rich is doing. And by showing them how to legalize or how to legally pay less in income tax, we can then take that money and we can pay off their debt. And once the debt's paid off, including the mortgage, we can then start leveraging that with their credit to start building generational wealth. In fact, over the next 10 years at Fortress, my company's Fortress University, we're going to help 1 million people become financially free.
Amazing. Now, I've heard that term thrown around, financially free. And I'm going to ask you for your definition of this, but I want to share something kind of funny the other day. This is about a month ago, and I just put on my Facebook timeline, what does it mean to be financially free? Right. Because I was just curious, like what I have my meaning, and I've heard somebody else say something kind of random, and I got all kinds of wild answers. Some people are just like to have $1 million in the bank. Some people take on like to have enough passive income from investments to that matches or surpasses your expenses, and that's kind of how I have defined it. Some people said when I don't feel like I'm working when I'm at work. I'm like, well, that's that's a different way to look at it. And someone else said when I finish school. I'm like, you have no idea. So just so that we're talking the same language here and that the audience knows what it means, what does it mean to you?
What it means to me is the ability to work where you want to work and live where you want to live and drive what you want to drive and hang out with people you want to hang out with, to where you're financially free that you can decide what you want to do. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't mean that you never work and you retire at 19 years old and you live off of, hundreds of millions of dollars that you made off of YouTube.
Mm.
I know there was a study done, and it was like 88% of teenagers, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like that amount. It's a huge amount of people. The majority of people asked if they would be a millionaire. They said yes, they would be a millionaire from being a social media influencer.
How far is that from reality?
Oh, it's not even.
Not even close, right? It's like everybody wants to be an NBA star when they're out on the streets playing basketball.
The average American will never make more than $60,000 a year. The average American at 65 years old has a net worth of $240,000. That's the average. So to be a millionaire from Instagram or social media or whatever it's not realistic. And I know a lot of these influencers because they hire me to fix their credit. And a lot of the jets that they're on, the cars, they're all rented. In fact, I know one that I won't say his name,
Yep.
but off air, I'll tell you who it is. He is by far the most successful person on YouTube with growing the audience from nothing to millions of followers. He talks about all the books that he reads and the cars that he has and all this stuff. This first video he did in the jet with all the Instagram models, the one where the chick was falling asleep, that was my buddy's jet that he rented to fly from Orange County to Burbank and back. And the only way he got my buddy to give him the jet, rented it, is he said it was doing it for charity, for Make-A-Wish. And he lied about that too. So most of these influencers that you see, a lot of them hire me to fix their credit and they don't have any money. All the stuff is rented. There's even this, have you seen it? The business, it's in Las Vegas and it's a cutout of a jet.
Oh, it is. It's a movie set.
And you go sit on the private jet, right?
You rent the space for like $100 an hour, and then you shoot your Instagram videos in there, and then you look like you're in a jet. You take a step back with the camera, and then you can see it's a cutout. Yeah, they have those. They're popping up more often because it's just this thing that people want to do. It's kind of crazy.
So the answer to your original question was, how many people are going to become millionaires on social media? None. I have videos that have well over 1 million views. When I post them, I have several videos. I don't make any money from that. When I say you don't make any money, it definitely doesn't have commas in the deposits, if you know what I mean. And it's a lot of work. In fact, it's the only thing that I do with running 5 different companies, helping people, doing speaking, even talking to upset suicidal clients, because a lot of our clients are suicidal. And I mean, they're going through divorce. They had cancer. Now it destroyed their credit. They wiped out their 401k. They got ripped off, or whatever the reason is. The only thing I don't like to do that I have to do for my business is creating social media. That's the only thing I don't like doing, but I create a lot of it.
Why do you feel you have to?
Well, what I mean by you have to create is if you don't create the social media content, if you don't build your own brand, it's going to be extremely difficult and much harder to reach your goals if you do not have a personal brand. And that's what most entrepreneurs do not realize is your social media should be the way to launch your brand. I have videos that I can put on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube that get more views and more watch time than some of Nicolas Cage's movies. And he's a very famous person. And so it's your brand. And I realized this not too long ago. Ryan Gosling sold, was it Mint?
No, Mint Mobile was Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. I said Gosling. I meant Ryan Reynolds. I realized at that point that he became extremely wealthy, if not a billionaire, close, and he will be a billionaire because of it, from his personal brand.
Yeah. No, actually, he is a billionaire now because he sold the Aviator whiskey program, right? I mean, whiskey brand. So yeah, I've just read recently he crossed the $1 billion mark.
Look at The Rock. he become a billionaire from tequila, and so your brand is so important. And I just finished a podcast, and the guy was asking me, he's like, well, what would you have to say to people about this economy and what's going on? It's like, build your brand, get good at sales, build your credit up, get as much money as you can from the bank, so when you see opportunity, you can move on it. And if you can build your brand through social media, it doesn't matter what happens to your job, your business. You can instantly switch and go into something else if you have that brand.
Absolutely.
Because if you have that following and today you're selling this widget number A and you lose that contract, tomorrow you start selling widget number B. And as long as you're ethical and you have a good following, you can scale that extremely fast.
I get asked a lot by my clients when they come on. They're just like, well, should I build my personal brand or my company brand, my company logo? And like, should I be the face of the company? And I think it's a decision that some people really are afraid of showing their face on camera for various reasons. But answer almost always give them is, do you want to invest in portable equity or like static equity? Like if you invest in your company logo and you're not putting your face out there, there's a million things that could happen. You might be hit with a lawsuit and go bankrupt without having done anything wrong. The economy downturn could do things. You could have a hostile takeover. There's just so many things that could happen to a company's brand. And if that company sinks, then you just put a lot of sunk cost into that you can't recover. However, if you work on your own personal brand, like kind of like Richard Branson did, how Elon Musk did, then you could take that and it turns into portable equity. It goes into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So the same amount of investment you would have made into building your personal brand versus the company's brand, that value accumulates over time versus diminishes when that one asset might diminish in value. So if I could get people to just think like that, this is investing in yourself. It's not, this widget that might go away. It's wherever you go, there you are. That's the same with your brand, right?
Yeah.
So I just need to get people to wrap their heads around that. And then they'll actually work on getting over their fear of getting in front of the camera and things like that. Did you feel awkward around the beginning stages when you started?
Come on. Yes.
Tell me about that. First time you went on social media on video or photos.
I'll tell you, because I still remember it. It petrified me. I don't know about you, but I was reminded of this yesterday. And some of what I'm doing for my social media is changing based on what I saw yesterday on this post. And the post was, it was you. It was you that I saw this. You interviewed someone recently and you said, you asked this person, where should you spend your time building your social media audience? And he said, what's the first application you open up in the morning when you wake up? You said Instagram, right?
That's right.
That's where you build your audience. If that's the first app you open up. So prior to me having an Instagram account, and this was 2012-ish, maybe 2013. I'm not really sure. I know I was in Lake Tahoe because I got up in the morning. I went to the bathroom. I was sitting on the toilet going through Facebook, and this guy named Ron Siegel, where him and I went to radio school together to learn how to do proper radio. And for 10 years, he had a radio show. I had a radio show. So he popped up in my feed. I clicked on it and it said, you are now live with Ron Siegel. And I freaked out because
you're in the toilet.
I'm sitting on the toilet and I thought they could see me. And I was like figuring out how to turn on my phone. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. I remember it was in Lake Tahoe. I don't know what year it was, but that's when the first time I ever saw Facebook Live. Eventually I figured out that they couldn't see you unless at that time you couldn't join them. Now, you can join them and stuff. So that was the first time I really got involved with lives. And I was so bad. And I still had people watching, and it boggles my mind. And they didn't watch very long. Probably they watched to make fun of me and tell jokes about me. But here's what I did. I went live 3 to 5 times a day. And I only had a Facebook account. I really didn't do anything. I would be outside. I'd be walking with my dog. And that's when I started the walking videos. And most of my stuff that I do is just me walking because I exercise every day. I try to walk at least 5 miles a day outside. So I just started doing that. Every time I had a chance, I'd turn on the phone, go live, and just say some stuff. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. But I started getting better and better. And the reason I started practicing more on Facebook Live was because I had just started doing TV interviews. I had a very popular radio show that was nationally syndicated, and I wanted to get into TV. And so that was my way of figuring out how to get good on video. Was I would literally, I had a selfie stick, and I'd put it in front of me, and I'd walk and I would look at the camera, and over thousands of these Facebook Live videos, I got pretty good at it, and I got pretty comfortable at it. But there's so many bad ones. And here's the thing: you have to get on there and do it. And I was reminded of this today. I created a Twitter account recently, and I went on Twitter this morning to see how many followers I had. And when I said recently, I created the Twitter account when Elon announced that he was going to buy it.
Yeah.
So I created a Twitter account because I was like, I'm going to get on Twitter. I got on there today. I have one follower on Twitter. So it reminded me today, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere, and you got to start with some post, and eventually it will build into it if you're consistent and if you're consistently consistent. What most people do is they do one video and it gets one view.
And just like, it doesn't work.
They might get like 30 views, and it's because it's their mom watching it 30 times, and it doesn't work, so they quit. But that's not how anything works. You got to do it over and over again. Eventually people will start sharing it. And then if you provide value to people, and I found that it doesn't have to be all this hype. You don't have to be pretending to be in a private jet. You don't have to be pretending to be, in a Ferrari with.
I think that the one exception to the private jet thing is that you start the video and then you actually show you're in a fake set, and then that would actually probably get some attention.
I would do that.
That would be interesting.
I fly private as much as I can, but I don't post videos from it, just because I don't want to be that guy,
There's someone named Alex Becker, who I've been following, and he's an entrepreneur. He has a company called Hyros.com, but he recently exited for over $100 million. And then he's been posting a lot lately, and I think anybody listening to this should check out what he's been posting. But one of the things he talks about is how whenever he sees people posting pictures of them in private jets or in first class or business class or whatever, to him that automatically signals that this guy's not really there. They're like barely touching that level, because he likened it to like every time you take an Uber, do you take a photo, say, hey, I'm taking an Uber? It's like, no, because it's just a normal part of your life. And for someone who's making $100 million or $1 billion, it's just a normal part of their life to be on a yacht, to be in a private jet, to be taking helicopters. So it doesn't make sense. It's not exciting for them to show off to their circle of friends, hey, I'm in a jet. So he's just like, that's the first signal that they're either barely there, or they're renting it, or they're faking it, right? So that when I heard that, I was like, that makes so much sense. When's the last time I took a photo of, hey, I'm on a train in Tokyo? Like it's like it's that's just, or I'm, like my car, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, my daily driver is it's a Nissan family van. It's called an El Grande because I got a big family, and that's what makes sense. And I don't take photos there because it's just life. Probably if I went and got a Ferrari, I'd take a bunch of photos for a couple of months, and then it'd be just like, well, it's just normal now. And I'd quit because it just wouldn't make sense anymore. It's not fun. So I think that's how people will start waking up and seeing that as a reality more, because it's just overdone,
Yeah, I think it's overdone. When I fly first class, I do quite a bit of posting from first class. And it's not because, oh, look at me, I'm in first class. It's because one of the things I teach my students is how to fly first class for free. And when I rent cars, I show them, look, this is how you rent a car. And we actually videotape Facebook Live it or Instagram Live it, the whole process of paying for an economy car and getting a Cadillac Escalade. The last time I posted was actually in Lyft. It was in New Orleans. I paid, my girlfriend paid $126 to go from the French Quarters to the airport because it was Jazz Fest time. And she was in some little tiny Toyota Corolla or something. I paid $13 for a Cadillac Escalade. And I did post that.
That's a good deal.
That's part of my program, is I'm teaching them how to use their credit to get these freebies. And Dave Ramsey says this. He's never met a millionaire that made his millions from credit card points. And that's probably true. A lot of what Dave Ramsey says is not true. A lot of what he says is completely false, and he lies about a lot of things. But that's probably something he's telling the truth, that he's probably never met a millionaire that made it from the points. Now, I know millionaires that made their millions teaching people how to get points and using points. But here's the thing. It goes right back to what Wally Williams taught me when I was 15 years old. It's not how much money you make that's as important as how much money you keep. So if instead of paying $1,400 for that first class ticket, you paid $200 or you didn't pay anything at all, that's $1,400 that you don't have to earn, which means you don't have to pay income tax on it. And it's $1,400 that you could invest somewhere else. So, but I can tell you, flying private is so much better than flying first class, and driving a Ferrari is a lot better than driving a minivan. For just you and your wife. Now, if you got a bunch of kids, the Ferrari's not going to work
great. Yeah, absolutely. I think the last time I was in a Ferrari and drove it was a bunch of my buddies. We were in Monaco. It was like a mastermind, and then they organized this, this tour in supercars around all the hairpin curves through the mountainous area. That was a lot of fun because I was doing it with community. And then I rented one by myself here in Tokyo once. I don't know. I'm just not as much of a car guy as a lot of my friends are. But I think that maybe I will be at some point. Just right now, it just doesn't light me up. But I am excited about the Tesla Cybertruck, which I think I was the 500th person to place an order because each one has a serial number on it, right? I watched the thing live, but I'll probably get it way later because I'm all the way in Japan, and they got to get the steering wheel on the other side before they ship it here. So I don't think I'll be the 500th recipient, but I have the, it's the 500 range order. So just because it's new and novel and nobody else has it, literally nobody else in the world. So that's exciting for me. We'll see how that goes. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me, how do you come up with interesting ideas for your videos? And I'm looking right now at some of the recent ones you put up. One of them is called Pay Off Your Loan Early Without Extra Payments. You've got another one called Hacking Auto Loans. Another one that says what you need to know before co-signing. Now, these topics, where do they come from, and how do you decide what you're going to talk about?
Most of these ideas come from people calling me in a panic that they co-signed for someone, and now that someone is no longer in their life, that someone's no longer paying the bills. And I see that weekly. Somebody's dating this person, they co-signed for a loan, and now they're locked in with that person based on that loan for 15 to 20 years, based on how the credit reporting works and repossession laws and lawsuits and judgments and stuff. Literally co-signing for someone on a car could impact you for 20 years or longer if that person doesn't get in a car accident and get sued, because you as a co-signer, you're 50% owner in the car, you're getting sued as well. So that's how I come up with that one. And then how to pay off your mortgage in 30 years. People want to know. And that's one of the things that we teach. So everything that I talk about, I'm actually doing myself. I never talk about something that I read in a book that I'm not doing. So that's generally how I come up with just experience. And then a lot of people ask questions, and I encourage people to ask questions on my post, on my website. The clients, I do 2 coaching calls a week, one for business clients for business credit and funding, and one for my personal clients that we teach them how to raise their credit score. And we take the questions from there. So it's primarily from the audience, because I can't come up with all that stuff.
That's the easiest way to come up with it, is solve a problem that already exists instead of trying to imagine what they would be. And no better place than your audience or your clients. Could you give us kind of a snapshot of what your business looks like? What I mean by that is, I know that you've set up some businesses that have worked for you, and then you went and started actually consulting and helping people with their credit score. Now, are these 2 completely separate things, or are they all somehow related in like a vertical stack?
So I have 5 companies, and each of the 5 companies are separate companies and do their own thing. but it all goes back together as one company, if you will. So think of it as kind of like Amazon's got lots of companies. Whole Foods is one of theirs, and they've now tied Amazon returns in with Whole Foods and then delivery services. But here's what it is: the big company that kind of oversees everything, if you will, is called Fortress. And Fortress is a company I created in November 2007 as strictly as a credit repair company. And as that grew, we realized that fixing someone's credit is like giving a 16-year-old kid keys to a Lamborghini. It is not going to end well if we don't teach them how. They already showed us they screwed it up and wrecked it in the first place. Fixing it and just giving them the keys back to a new supercar is not going to be a good thing. So we started doing education. So now we have Fortress University, which is my education department. And that's where we teach people how to increase their credit scores, reduce their taxes, eliminate their debt, build business credit, start investing primarily in real estate, because that's what I know. I don't do Forex. I don't do crypto. Every time I've done any of that stuff, I lost my money, and I've rarely lost with real estate. And so that's the education division. Then we have credit monitoring, where I have an account with all three credit bureaus, where if I need to pull someone's credit, we can do it through our own account, and then we can provide them access to credit reports, identity theft, money management, etc. And then we have a debt settlement company. So with debt settlement, if they have charge-offs, collections, or credit cards they simply can't pay, or repossessions they can't pay for, we will reach out to the bank and settle that for pennies on the dollar. And then sometimes the banks actually pay our clients. So I'll give you an example. We had a client just a few weeks ago, bought a $40,000 truck, took it home, got deployed, didn't make the payment, bank came and repossessed it. Well, the bank can't repossess it, for one, if you're deployed, and he notified them deployed and they didn't care. So not only did he get the truck back after they repoed it, but they had to send him a check for $12,000 for the down payment, and he didn't have to pay for the truck. So these are that's an extreme case, but usually it's, the average American has $20,000 of credit card debt. We can settle that down to zero to $3,000 to $4,000. And then they don't have to file bankruptcy. And then we have a tax department where we teach people how to eliminate their income taxes. And then I also buy apartment complexes through my real estate company. And now I'm looking to buy mobile home parks, so trailer homes. So that's really it. Fortress is kind of in the middle that brings people in for credit repair. And then as we fix their credit, we teach them how to decrease their taxes, eliminate their debt, and how to invest the money.
So basically what you're saying is like the gateway drug to people coming into the world of Fortress or Rondi Lambeth is my credit score is a mess, or I'm in some kind of financial trouble. Help me solve it. You educate them on how to solve it. And then when they're in a position to want to actually, like, let's say this is like zero and they start here, you get them just above water. Now they're just like, hey, what else is possible? And you created these other solutions, investment opportunities in various things, financial services. And so that's pretty much just a path you created as an additional service for people once you help them fix their credit score, right? Is that the thinking?
That's it. It's the lead generation is the credit repair, and I have now a little over $100 million in apartment complexes that we've syndicated. And I can tell you 100% of the people that brought money to me to syndicate this $100 million portfolio, 100% of them come from my credit repair company.
Amazing. When I get set up in the US, then and I got my bank accounts and everything set up there, then I will definitely be exploring how that works to go with you. My wife I don't know if you've seen this often in couples, but I'm not going to be good when it comes to like disciplined investing over long periods of time and doing boring stuff. I mess it up every time. My wife, every single day, doing the really faithful menial tasks, checking all the spreadsheets. She's in the stock market, and she does not day trading, but she does trading. She executes all her trades during the day, and then at night that's when they trigger, right? Because that's when the U.S. stock market opens. And she's so patient, and she's wonderful. And I'm like, guard me from our treasures here, and please take care of it for us. But I Do you see that in couples a lot? That there's this difference. There's a spender, risk taker, and then there's the saver, plotter. And is that a common thing?
Yeah, it's very common. In the United States, 90% of the husbands or the men in the relationship don't manage the credit. They don't manage the checking account. The woman in the relationship really controls 90% of the purse, if you will. And it works really well when you have somebody like you that knows how to go out and get the money, and then a spouse that knows how to invest the money and keep the money. What
As long
doesn't
as they
work?
stay together, right? And when they
Yes.
break up, then that's a real mess.
Well, that is real mess because the one knows how to manage is going to keep it.
Yeah. Well, at
What's
least the other
really,
guy should figure out how to make more money in the
yeah,
future.
my friend Brad Lee said the other day, he's like, this is how you trigger a broke male, a broke husband. Uh, he had said, do you know who Brad Lee is?
Of course, he was my former client, and we used to
Oh, okay.
help him with his social media videos.
Yeah. So Brad said the other day, he goes, I got a magic floor. I go in, I take my clothes off, I throw them on the floor, I come back, and they're magically clean in my drawers. And he's like, I know that's going to upset a lot of people. He goes, but here's the thing, my wife has a magic purse.
Ah,
And anytime she pulls her wallet out, she can buy anything she wants. So I have the magic floor. She's got the magic purse.
that's a good one. That's a good one because I heard the first half of that and some parodies on. I saw the videos, but when you flip it like that, that makes sense. Now it's symbiotic. It's no longer like taking advantage of people. It's a symbiotic relationship.
The couples that I see, and I see this every day with clients. I mean, we've helped hundreds of thousands of people increase their credit scores. We have thousands of active clients right now in Fortress University. And here's what we see. Most of the time, the men are totally checked out. It's usually they sign up and they pay for it, and the wife actually does most of the work. And it works great. If one spouse is good at making the money, one spouse is good at keeping it. What doesn't work well is when both spouses are spenders. It works well with one's a spender and one's a saver because it kind of equals out. But when they're both spenders, it's not a good mix. And really, when they're both savers, it's not a good mix because if they're both afraid to invest, then you can't save yourself into wealth. And what I mean by that is put money in a savings account. You'll never become wealthy with a savings account. You lose money. And Grant Cardone says it. Savers are losers. And I agree. Savers are losers. I'm not saying you shouldn't save money because you should save it and then invest it. But if you simply just save it, you won't make any money. You're going to lose it through inflation. I mean, look at the last 2 years of inflation in the United States.
That's crazy. Like I'm in Japan and inflation is real, but not that exaggerated like you guys are seeing over there. I pre-COVID, I was flying a lot to the US and post-COVID, I've taken a few trips. It's on average 2.5 times more expensive for the same flights.
And yeah,
It's crazy. It's gone up so much. And I'm like, where is this going? Like, do I have to charge everybody in my whole, agency 2.5 times more just to, keep up? And, and I guess that's the definition of inflation. Everything just keeps going up because you got to pay more. So you got to charge more. And then it's a vicious cycle.
I've been going to Florida every 90 days now for the last 7 years. And my first class tickets used to be $700 to $900 round trip. Now they're $1,500 to $1,800. Same flight, same cities.
Can I tell you what my coach tickets cost to get to the same place? It's about 2,500. No, it's 2,700. That's coach. So, and then first class, business is 17,000. First class is 22,000. And I like to treat myself, but like between 2,700 and going into the 5-digit range, I'm just like, damn, like I'm just gonna, try to get like 3 economy seats in a row so I could lie down halfway. But it's, I don't know, the prices have gone crazy. It's nuts. So Rondi, I think a lot of people who are listening and they want to learn about content creation and how it relates to business stuff will be curious to know what it looks like under the hood for you. Like, what's the most efficient way, or the most common way, let's say, for someone to have first heard about you on social media or maybe an ad to paying money? What are the chain of events that happens?
A large percentage of the people that come to me to fix their credit, increase their scores, reduce their taxes, eliminate their debt, generally click on an ad. But then once they click on the ad, we can start. I don't know if it's called geo tracking or whatever it is, but we can re-advertise to them, and then they start seeing a lot of my other social media videos, and we really leverage the rest of the stuff to reinforce the ad. Then once we get them on the phone, my salespeople start talking to explain the process. And then I really leverage the social media from that point forward to keep them as a client, to keep them engaged. Because here's the thing with most Americans and probably most people in the world, when it comes to money, they're lazy. And when it comes to taxes, they just don't want to learn about it. They don't want to do it. They want their CPA to do it. But the CPA doesn't work for you. The CPA's job is not to help you reduce your taxes. The CPA's job is to file the taxes. And they really work for the IRS, and they're regulated by the IRS. And by law, they're required to tell the IRS if you screw something up or if you cheat. So their job is to file your taxes. Their job is not to save you money. And your banker's job is to get money out of your pocket and manage it on his own. And so I use social media to get them in. I use social media to keep them, and I use social media to teach them what they need to do, because not very few of my clients actually log into the coaching calls. Very few clients actually ever log into Fortress University to do the education, but most of them will watch my Instagram if they're on Instagram. Most of them, if they're on Facebook, I post everywhere so I can meet them where they are versus trying to get them to go to a different platform that I like the best. So that's how I use social media, and that's kind of the flow of it, is get them coming in and then keep them with social media.
What do you say to people who are maybe in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they say, I'm too old for social media, like that, like I came on the scene too late. What do you say to people like that?
It's never too late. In fact, I had a Joel Patrick just a few weeks ago, the guy with the white privilege card.
That guy is brilliant. White privilege card.
The white privilege card is a black kid making millions selling a white privilege card to white folks. It is hilarious. uh, he said to me, he's like, I'm really surprised you have such an engagement on your Facebook or your social media. I said, why is that? He goes, because you're old. You know, most people your age.
If anyone, he's the one to say what's on his mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, he's 26 years old. And I'm like, what do you mean? How old do you think I am? And he's like, you're 40. I'm like, dude, I'll be 52 this year. And he goes, that's my point. Most people in your age don't have a social media following. And here's the advantage if you're 40s, 50s, and 60s or older. That is the advantage, is you have the experience and the years, and people, when they're looking, they actually trust you more, and you have more to offer than a 19-year-old entrepreneur telling me how I need to hustle and get up at 3:00 in the morning and don't go to bed till midnight and just grind. And you know, you've seen these guys. They just don't have enough life experience. So if you're in your 40s, 60s, and whatever, if you're older, that's your advantage, and you should use that advantage. And most importantly, just be yourself. Don't try to be Grant Cardone. You know, don't try to be Ty Lopez. Don't try to be all of these other guys or people that are funny or do stupid stuff. Just be yourself, and people that want your services will hire you because you are yourself.
Thank you. I got another question here. I talked to a lot of people, and when it comes to social media content creation, they get scared about the amount of effort it takes, not just shooting the video, but actually editing it, getting it uploaded, writing captions, thumbnails. Like, they don't even know what they don't know, and they think it's going to take so much time. So I know you're quite prolific in putting out your content. So what advice do you give to people when it seems like such an overwhelm? Should they hunker down and learn all the stuff, editing, and do it themselves? Or Or should they hire a team or an individual to do that for them? And how do you make that decision?
Well, I'm going to answer that two ways. If they're brand new, I think they should just start doing it. Just start creating content. It doesn't need to be hashtagged. It doesn't need to be pretty. You don't have to have expensive equipment. You don't have to have a crew. Just get out your phone and start talking into the camera until you get decent at it. Because most people are afraid to do it because they're afraid that they're going to look bad. And guess what? You are going to look bad. You're going to sound bad, and it's not going to be very good. Once you've committed to it and you've kind of figured it out, then hire someone to come in and help you. You know, whether it's an agency or your teenage kid to do it, hire someone to actually make things better. But I wouldn't say to go out and hire someone right away to figure out if social media is going to work for you. Figure it out first and get, a couple hundred followers. And here's the thing with like Instagram. 10,000 followers today was the equivalent of 1 million followers 5 to 10 years ago. If you can hit the amount of effort to get there and the engagement that you get at 10,000 followers. So everybody's like, I need millions of followers. You don't. I looked at it when I was really struggling with it and I was doing quite a bit of public speaking. I looked at it as, hey, I got 500 followers. That's like me going on stage in front of 500 people. That's 500 people that are following me that are engaged. And I would rather have 500 fully engaged, committed people than 500,000 people that just found the page and liked it and never come back. So it's not really about the numbers of followers, it's the engagement that you get with them and then the comments. And what you'll be surprised is this. It still surprises me. I'll have people come up and say, man, I watch your stuff all the time and you're doing this and you're doing that and that's great. I didn't know that they were even watching any of it because they've never once ever left a comment. They've never said anything. They've never liked anything. There are just a lot of people, and I'm one of them now, that I like to just look at people's stuff. I don't say anything. I don't like it. I don't dislike it. And I've found myself now to where even if I disagree with someone says and it's like completely ridiculous, I don't say anything at all. And there's a Bible verse that says, don't throw your pearls to swine. And what it means is don't spend your time trying to get pigs to do something, and a lot of times people post things just to get a reaction from you. And I had someone ask me a really stupid question yesterday. And why I say it's stupid is because I knew he was trying to poke at me. And his question was, if I had Forrest Gump money, why do I need credit? And why that's stupid is that's like saying, now that I have Jeff Bezos money, why do I need oxygen? Or why do I need food? Because credit makes the whole world go around. It's credit that paid for this microphone. It's credit that's paying for this internet that we're talking on, the camera, the TV, and the whole thing. It's all based on credit. Whether it was me buying it with credit or the company who made it used credit. And here's the other thing. The US dollar and the Japanese money is a yen, right? I know American credit. I know American money. I don't know a whole lot about outside of the country. That's credit. It's a promissory note. So on our US dollar, it says this is good for public and private tender, which means that dollar bill is not worth a dollar. That is a credit from the Federal Reserve that promises to pay the person who holds that dollar. So credit's really important. So back to the comment or the question on content is, I think you should just get started. And then as you start getting some leverage and you're like, yeah, this is going to work for me and you're committed, then go out and find an agency or someone to help you with it because they're going to blow it up. And here's the other thing. I can tell you that for me personally, the raw, unedited, just me videos do way better than my professional videos all cut up and pop-ups and emojis and hashtags. People like just you. Just be yourself. So I don't know if you like that answer or not, but that's my answer.
What's important to me is what's real. What's real to you is what my audience wants to hear. I think there's a different answer for every unique situation. And anybody who says a blanket statement like everybody needs to do this or nobody should do this, they're overgeneralizing. Maybe it'll help you get some more views and clicks, but real stories, real experiences are the only thing that will help us realize that there are a million ways to succeed, just as many ways to fail, but you got to find your own path. And that's what this podcast is about, is how did all these people on the show find their own path and what was it? And I think the more we hear, the more ideas we get, the more things we're willing to try. So thank you for that.
You reminded me of something real quick. One of the things is I really struggle with posting, and it's because I look at it as just it's like my normal life. This is what I do. Like, why would anybody even be interested in my normal life? In that video that we said about me going grocery shopping, where I went out and I showed my chickens, my cows, my vegetables, my pond and stuff. The reason I did that was because I was trying to show my normal life, and people absolutely loved it. But it was weird for me because I don't ever want to come across as bragging or braggadocious. But I think the fact that I don't want it to come across that way makes it so it doesn't come across that way. And it's just like, well, this is just how I live. And it's surprising that people are interested in stuff like that. So what you think is interesting or not interesting, other people probably think it is interesting. So just be yourself and get out there and do it.
I think you should expand on that one. Like, one day it's like, hey, I'm just out here having a coffee, eating my chicken sandwich. Thanks, Elsa. You're delicious. Take a bite or something. Later on, you have a cup of coffee, you pour some milk in it. Thanks, Jenny, the cow, for the milk, or like you can expand on that and kind of make it a theme. And I think you're calling back to that previous one that people would have watched. That's actually a powerful thing with social media that I like to use my clients as callbacks. When you have a really big hit, then instead of trying to, stretch the legacy of that hit, you do callbacks, and then people will make the connection to that good feeling they had when they watched their initial one. And then they also feel like, oh, this is an inside thing that only I know because I'm a loyal follower. And it makes them feel more endeared to you. So that's, something that's really fun to do.
The other thing is be a lot of people are like, I'm interested in doing this. Don't be interested, be committed to the cause, be committed to it. And I'll give you an example. My chickens are interested in me and interested in giving me eggs. My cattle, they're committed to giving me beef at the end of the year because the chickens are just interested in it. So be committed to your brand, and eventually you'll have a really good brand.
Rondi, I want to ask a few lightning round questions. Right behind you, you've got a beautiful sign that says America's Credit Expert. And what that tells me is that you know a thing or two about repairing credit scores, increasing credit scores. Could you give us like the top 5 things that people listening right now will be able to log into their computer or call their banker or the credit card company and actually start moving the needle forward? Because I like my audience to get a taste of what's possible before they dive in with both feet. Is that okay with you?
You bet. So I am one of the very few people here in the United States that is a certified FICO credit professional, which means I was trained by FICO and certified. And FICO has been around since 1956. They are the software that creates the FICO score, which is used in the majority of the countries worldwide. With that being said, I don't know if it's 5 items, but let's count them. Number one, first thing you got to do is get a copy of your credit report. And you can get that from my company at creditmojo.com, or you can get a copy for $1, creditmojo.com, or you can go to any of the other websites and pay 20, 30 bucks. But first, you got to get a copy of your credit report. Then you need to look at that credit report for inaccuracies. Every single credit report has inaccuracies, all of them. Doesn't matter, 100% of them. Wrong names, wrong address, wrong birthday, wrong phone number, inaccurate information on the accounts. So look for the correct information or inaccurate information. If there is anything wrong in your names, addresses, phone numbers, previous employers, get your driver's license, your social security card, current utility bill, preferably a cell phone bill. Attach that to a letter that you send to the credit bureaus that says, I've looked at my credit report. Here's what's wrong. I provided proof of my name, my birthday, and my address. Please remove all of this information. Here's why you want to remove it. 70% of all identity theft, 70% is from friends and family members that got a pre-approved credit card offer in the mail in your name, and they filled it out, and they got a credit card in your name at their address. The next thing you want to do is look at the accounts that have late payments and look for the inaccuracies. The open date, the payment date, the amount, none of it will match. By law, it has to match on all three. Same thing, dispute it, or you can have us do that for you. File a freeze on your credit report. This is extremely important. You can go to Experian, TransUnion, Equifax.com/freeze. File a freeze on your account so no one can access it unless you give access to it. This prevents the likelihood of you ever being a victim of identity theft. And then make sure that you have at least 3 credit cards. Not 1, not 2, but at least 3 credit cards. And of those 3 credit cards, you can have more, but have at least 3. Make sure you use each one of them every single month. If you do not use a credit card every month, it's like having a gym membership and not going. Just because you have a gym membership does not make you healthy and in shape and strong. Just because you have a credit card does not help your credit score if you're not using it, because the way the FICO algorithm works is if you're not using it, they kick it out of the formula. And so you lose all of the history and you lose all the credit limit, which then offsets your utilization rate, which could destroy your utilization rate and drop your credit score. So make sure you have at least 3 credit cards. Never pay off installment loans early. Pay them down quickly, but never pay them off completely off, because when you pay them off early, cancels out your credit score. Never close a credit card. I could keep going if you want, but I think that's probably enough.
Half the stuff you told me is stuff that to me would be counterintuitive. Unless you as an expert told me this, I'd keep doing all the stuff you just said not to do, which I am currently doing. I don't know if that affects things in Japan. In Japan, it's a different system, but thank you for that. Guys, if nothing else, listening to this, just pause this, go back, take notes, and actually do these things. This is stuff that people pay money for, and they listen to somebody who's spent a lifetime building up knowledge and experience around this area. He's giving it to you for free. This is not something that is clickbaity or whatever. It's real value, actionable stuff. Go do it. That's my biggest recommendation to you. Rondi, last question. If somebody's interested in working with you, learning more about what you do, what's the best place for them to go to get started?
The best place to get started is go to Google and type in Rondi Lambeth, and you can pick anywhere you want to go. I'm on every social media platform at Rondi Lambeth, and my website's rondilambeth.com. And from there, you can just pick what you want to do. And look, we have programs as low as free to as high as if you're a business owner and you want me to save you $300,000-$400,000 in income taxes this year and every year going forward, you'll pay $25,000 one time. So anywhere from free to 25 grand, and every budget in between, we can help you with your money, your credit, and your taxes.
And just so everybody knows, I, for one, am committed to enrolling my wife once we have a U.S. presence. I'm in Japan right now, but we're planning to do something, as far as setting up businesses and stuff in the States. I trust what he has to say because of not only what he's telling me right now, but also the circle of friends who he's surrounded with himself with, who uncannily, we had a conversation around a fire a few weeks back, and you're saying all these names, and these are all people who are our mutual friends or clients. And I was like, that is crazy. And we went, there's at least 7 people, I think. And I was like, how come we haven't met? So because of the caliber of people who he's worked with, who I also know, that helps me to put a lot of trust into him, even though we've only known each other a short period of time. So I encourage you guys, click the link that I'm going to put down below to his social media channels. Follow him, check it out for yourself. If you like it, book a call, talk to his team, and see if and how they can help you. Rondi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. And for everybody else listening, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.